so we are going to get started here. So thank you all for joining us. We are the Community Foundation of Monroe County, and we offer grant opportunities for nonprofits, municipalities, and schools throughout Monroe County. And we've had some changes to our grant application online on our website. And so we thought it would be great to kind of go over some of the steps of application so that we can make sure we answer any questions people have ahead of our next deadline, which is going to be January 15th. So to get started, we're just going to jump into some quick housekeeping. This info session is being recorded. So again, we've had a lot of questions through this application process, and we think it would be really helpful to have a visual that they can walk through in the future if they're not able to join us here today. This will be available to any of you via request. So at the end of the presentation, I will have my email address. And our addresses are also on the website. Any of us will be able to send that over to you if you have any questions. You can also call us here at the office and request as well. I'd like to ask that your line is muted. So I have muted you all, but any newcomers or anybody who's popped in after that, if you will be able to unmute to ask your questions, but that way we'd have no distractions from the environments everywhere. And then in the last section, you will have the opportunity to ask questions verbally. Or in the chat box, whichever is most comfortable for you. We're actually going to be going through in sections. So at the end of each section, you'll be able to ask any questions related to that. So bumping into what those sections will look like. The first section is we're going to go over the Community Foundation grant evaluation policy. It's really helpful to know before you're applying what we look for in projects, what we fund or what we don't fund. Then we'll jump into navigating the application itself. And this is just going to be more of a walkthrough of the actual application online. So how to save your application, how to submit your application, how to upload documents, so that the navigating part of it we'll do the whole 6 pages of the application and submit it. So you'll be able to see what that looks like. And then we'll have an opportunity to ask any questions about that. How to save, submit, all of that good stuff. And then we're then going to kind of go back into the application and drill into some of the sections that our application is broken down into. So we'll go over the difference between an executive summary and purpose of grant, because those are 2 questions that sometimes people see to be pretty similar, but we see them a little differently. So we'll explain that. The purpose of the grant section, the outcome and result section, and the program or project budget section. So we'll drill into each of those, and after each of those sections, then you'll have some opportunities to ask any questions you may have. So that will be hopefully allow us to like pause right where the questions are. And again, your questions are very helpful because future people who are not part of this information session will be able to view the video, and they may have some of the same thoughts and questions that you have. And it's really helpful for us to continue to make this a very user-friendly experience. So we appreciate you being here. So let's get started. We're going to jump right in. So I'm going to first take you to our website, which is cfmonroe.org. This is where you will see our, at the top of the page, you'll see a home, about, and I actually have this in the way here. Scholarship, our grants, scholarships, initiatives, all the quick sort of places you can go. We're today going to start at grants. And when you're coming to apply, you're going to go to apply for a grant. So this is going to take you to the application procedure. This is page 1 of the application. But what we ask that you do is kind of take your time when you're working through this and read each of the things that we've added here for you, because we try to include some of the information that you'll need up front. So the first thing in the application procedure is that we ask you to read our grant evaluation policy. So we're actually just going to read that together right now. So when you click on that, it's going to take us to the grant evaluation policy. So to go over this initial page, again, is helpful before you start applying, because it kind of gives you some guidance as to what we're looking for with these grants. So the following guidelines are what we are looking for in these considerations are what we kind of take into account. So the experience and reputation of the requesting organization, the potential impact of the project on the community and its citizens, the availability of alternative funding sources, the probability that the project can be sustained, the probability of success in meeting a community need, and a complete and reasonable proposal and budget. So that's, there will be questions throughout the application that sort of ask those questions, but this is the stuff that, again, if you have any hesitation on any of those parts before you apply, please give us a call. We can help kind of guide you if it's the right time for your application. Now, we make every effort to be flexible so that we can adjust to the needs of the community, and those things do sometimes ebb and flow, but generally, some things that we do not consider funding for are grants to individuals, with the exception of our scholarship program, grants to political campaigns or campaigns for the purpose of influencing legislation, grants to annual fund raising drives, so fundraisers, grants to endowment campaigns, grants for the operational phases of established programs, grants for conferences or travel, grants for scholarly research, or grants for capital improvements. So again, we understand the needs of the community do change. So sometimes, you know, those might be reevaluated, which is why we ask that you, when you first come to the application, always click on that link so that you can see our evaluation policy. And that way, if there have been any changes or adjustments, you'll be able to see those there. So coming back to the application itself. Secondly, I guess actually, if there are any questions about our guidelines, now would be a good time if anybody. And you may have to unmute.
Hey, Brittany, I have a quick question. And you may have said this, I apologize, there was some stuff going on. So I understand that we look at the grant evaluation page prior to applying, but is it a best practice for us to still reach out to the staff at the foundation prior to applying as well? Or do you prefer we not do that?
You most certainly can. We really like to hear from you beforehand, because if there's an instance where maybe it's not the right time or a project that we wouldn't consider funding, we can let you know that before you go through the process of applying, because there is quite a bit of paperwork and research that goes into the application. And so I would suggest, if you're thinking about applying, give us a call, or you know, we're happy to have a phone conversation or an in-person meeting to discuss what your goals are. So definitely you can do that. Yep.
Is there a maximum grant amount?
Not really. So our grant window is quarterly, and we kind of take into consideration the funds that we have. So our funds, you know, all hold different amounts, and that's how we kind of determine what we will and won't fund for that year, as well as, you know, the market and the economy at that time. So if you're thinking about something that is a larger dollar amount, I think, again, it would be a great idea to contact us so we can chat about those opportunities, because we may not have the funds, and we can tell you that right up front, or maybe it's more of a partnership that we can help you work through. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So we're gonna go back to the application, and again, at the very, very end, we'll have like a general. So if something pops up, we can always go back to it, a general question opportunity. So secondly, we have our deadline listed, and our deadlines for our application will be the 15th day of January, April, July, and October. And then the distribution committee will meet that following early in the next month. So February, May, August, and November. And you will receive an invitation to present your distribution for our distribution committee. That will give you the exact times and locations for your presentations. So if you are submitting a grant that is going to the Community Foundation of Monroe County, if those funds are appropriate for your application, you will come to the Community Foundation here and then present to our distribution committee your project. If you are from Milan, we have a separate distribution committee that meets in Milan, and you will receive an invitation to that distribution. It's on a similar timeline, but that is at the center. We've also had it at the American Legion, and we will send you a direct invitation that tells you where to go and what time for those presentations. So you will have the opportunity to speak to the program and project that you are applying for. Incomplete applications are not considered, and failure to present your application will also be considered a retraction of your request. So it's really key for you to come and present, and we do think that that really helps give the distribution committee a good picture of what you're asking for, and they have the opportunity to ask you questions. So it helps kind of speed the process along for everyone involved. So bumping along into the application itself. So the application is 6 pages long. Page 1 is just kind of going to be your general organization's name, the date your organization was established, your address. Now, then we ask you if your organization is a 501c3 nonprofit, educational, or government agency. So if you don't answer yes to those questions, it is very likely your application will not be considered. So we're, again, a great place to stop and think about if your project is right for this application. The next line will be to upload a copy of your IRS letter. So this just lets us know that you have those ducks in a row. Moving on, we have your phone and your contact information, and then we get into the grant amount requested. So this is where you're going to tell us the total amount that you are asking us for your program or project. So there will be opportunity later in the application to drill into specifics, and we kind of ask you to get really specific about what your total is, but this is your initial total amount here. And then we ask you the number of Monroe County residents served by this program or project. I know we have a couple of Milan people on the line, so I know some of the questions we get because you're right there on the border of Monroe County residents and Washtenaw residents. And if you can give us the number of Monroe County students or the Monroe, any students at Milan are included. But if you're serving populations in multiple counties, it's very helpful for us to know the Monroe County specific numbers. Next we have is the requested grant for a new program or project. We just want to know, is this something that it's brand new? Have you been sustaining for some time? Some background there. Have similar programs or projects been undertaken by other organizations in the community? So we want to know that you've kind of looked around to see, are there other organizations doing similar projects? And is your organization a United Way agency? So again, we partner with United Way and we work very closely with them. So it's helpful to also know that you are an agency with them. Now, this is page 1 of the application. And as you see at the very bottom, you have the option to go next, which will take us to page 2, or to save and continue later. Now, we suggest that after you finish each page that you save and continue later, because our platform doesn't give you the opportunity to log in and out. So the only way to save your work will be this section here, which will let you give your email address and a link will be sent to you. So that is how you will access your application again. If you don't do that, there's no way to come back to it. If for some reason you closed out the page or something timed out. So we really suggest, we're going to emphasize that a lot throughout today. We're going to suggest doing that. So I'm just going to quickly show you what that looks like. So if you save and continue later, it's going to take you to a page to put your email address in. So you can add the email address that you would like the link to go to and hit send link. Now it's going to send you an email from the Community Foundation of Monroe County, and it will give you a link that will take you to the page that you were just working on. So we just completed page 1, and if I click on this link here, it's going to bring me back to page 1 of the application. If you save on page 2 or 3, that link will take you back to page 2 or 3, whichever page you saved it on. Again, there's no way for the system to remember who you are other than that link. So best practice is probably to continue after each page, send it to you. The links that you receive will be good for 30 days. So today you could go in and fill in all that quick information that you already know, your contact details and that sort of stuff, and send yourself a link. And for the next 30 days, you can go back. But every time you update it, you want to send yourself another link so that you have the most recent application there. So once you do that, again, it will take you to the page that you were just working on, and will have saved your subsequent pages. And then you will go to next. So again, we're just going to kind of briefly summarize these pages, and then we'll come back to these when we're drilling into some of the specifics. So the next page on the application is your executive summary, which is asking an executive summary in 500 words or less, a brief summary of the organization's history, and a brief summary of the organization's mission and goals. So we just kind of want to know overall what your organization does and your goals, and what you provide for the community. Now, at the very bottom, again, I just want to point out you have a button that will take you back to page 1. Next will bring you to page 3. But save and continue will then give you the opportunity to put your email address in and save this work. So that will give you a link that will have your saved page 1 and saved page 2. And again, we recommend that before you move on to the next page. We're going to go on to that next one. So
Kathleen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Wayne Blank from Bedford Vet Center. Can we do more than one page at a time, or do you recommend that we do a page and save it and a page and save it?
You can do more than one. So like if you're plowing through it and you're like page 1 done, page 2, page 3, you can definitely do that. We just recommend that before you submit and before you kind of walk away, that you save it for yourself. That way you have it. So yeah, if you're sitting down in one go and you're doing the whole thing at once, I would just recommend that before you submit your application, you send yourself that link. That way, that's the only way for you to kind of go back and change or correct anything. Once you've submitted it, then that's it. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so again, we're on page 3. So the purpose of the grant. So the goal of this program or project, the detailed research, statistics, or evidence that show a need that this exists, and key staff responsible for implementing the program or project and their titles, and any in-kind or match donations or community partners that you are seeking or collaborating with. So again, you answer all those questions. If you need to go back to the page before, previous page, next, or save and continue. So we're going to go on to the next page. Page 4 is asking you for the outcomes and results. So the first section is going to ask you to provide specific outcomes for this program or project in the time frame within which they will occur. Describe how outcomes will be measured and who will measure them. And describe the sustainability plans for the program or project. So we'll come back to all the details of what we're looking for really with this stuff. This is, those 3 boxes are kind of limitless in terms of the characters that you put into those. But once you do that, you can head on to the next page or save and continue later. So finally, we're getting to the program or project budget details. So this is where we're going to ask you some specific questions about your program or your project. So the payroll, the staff payroll for this project, insurance, taxes, licenses and certifications, supplies, marketing, equipment, repairs and maintenance, and other program or budget expenses. So this is your opportunity to really help drill in all of the dollars and cents that are going to add up to that total amount that you asked us for on page 1. And then as we continue on to some more specifics on the budget, we want to know any community collaborations or organizations that you are working with for this program or project. So we would like to know other grants you've applied to, and then we give you a section for committed and a section for pending. So we know that sometimes if it's a large dollar amount that you're asking for, you might have also asked for, have grant applications in with other entities. So here's your opportunity to tell us, we have a grant from DTE and that is committed and it's, $5,000, but we have also asked for a grant from Lazy Boy for $5,000, but that's still pending. So this is your opportunity to kind of tell us any other grants that you have as a part of this program or project. Same with in-kind donations. We'd like to know who has committed and then where you have pending asks out. Matching funds, any committed matching funds or pending. And then any other commitments or pending commitments from other entities. So it could be, materials or in-kind donations or anything else that didn't fit those categories that you think we should know as a part of this. So again, we're getting towards the end of the application. So save and continue later. We'll make sure that everything up until this point, and these last couple pages is really a lot of your, you're writing basically essays. So a recommendation is to save and continue so that you have that to go back to before we get to our last page. So in this last page is where we're asking for support cover letters from your board president. And I'm just going to kind of show you, there is a max file size for these uploads, which is 32 megabytes. And our system should tell you that what you're trying to upload is too big. So we have made some adjustments through the last year to try to make it, again, more user-friendly. So sometimes applications were getting stuck in the back end if these documents were too large. Now it should be prompting you and telling you it's too big. So what you'll do for this section is you will select your file. So I just have, a PDF, for example, and you say open. You can see here that the document that I uploaded, which was the grant application info session PDF, is attached. So that tells me that the system has allowed the size to come through and it is attached to my application for when I submit it. And then the next question is most recent annual financial statement, independently audited and if available, otherwise your 990. So same thing, you would select files, which will bring up your documents. So your computer, your desktop, your downloads, and you will attach your pertinent document, open. And then when you see it up here in this black font here, you know that it has been uploaded. Again, a letter of collaborative support for the program or project. Same thing, you can upload it from your desktop, your board members, and then at the very end, we're asking you for previous grants your organization has received from the Community Foundation of Monroe County, the project, the date, and then any other information that you think is important. Now, this is the last page of the application. So here it's going to give you the option to go previous, back to your previous pages, to take a look and make sure you've got everything that is needed before you submit. And then it has a submit button and a save and continue later. So again, once you hit that submit button, you cannot go back into the application. The application is completely gone. So we recommend that save and continue later so that you have, you have it. Then the submit button will bring you to this page here, which is, you will know your application has gone through in two ways. One, you will come to this page, which tells you, thank you for submitting your application, and we appreciate the opportunity to consider it. It has our phone number, so if you have any questions or issues, you can give us a call. And then it reiterates that you are expected to present your presentation or your request at our distribution meeting at 2 p.m. on the first Tuesday of February, May, August, and I have this little thing in the way, and November at our address. And then the similar information for Milan. Additionally, you will get an email that has a copy of your application. So you should have that as a confirmation that your application has gone through. If for some reason you do not see that application in your email, we ask that you check your junk mail. That's going to come through a little different than the save and continue link. That link comes from the Community Foundation of Monroe County. The other link may look like it's coming from info@CF Monroe, or it might look like it's coming from K Russo at Community Foundation. So if you don't see that, check your junk mail or your clutter folders, because it could go there. And then if you're still not seeing it, go ahead and reach out to us, because we can push it through to you on the back end. We think it's helpful to see that and have that in front of you when you're doing your presentation. If there's any information anywhere in that application, you will have the opportunity to address that in the distribution presentations. So we think it's really helpful to have that in front of you, so you know exactly what was said and in print, and what the committee is looking at. So that is the process of walking through the entire application. Are there any questions? I see in the chat, does everyone applying present? You can have more people. You will have one contact listed on your application. So we've had instances where maybe that contact couldn't come, but somebody else from the organization can come and present the project. We have had some people bring a few other people from their organization. That's completely okay, but it doesn't have to be everyone associated. Two people or so. Oh, and I see Michelle answered. That's very helpful. Let's see. If you're a government agency, do you have to submit the IRS designation letter? Yes. So, and I think Kathy or Michelle.
Yes, I believe it's a required field, so they have to upload something in order for it to submit. So some type of document for the IRS designation letter.
Okay, and then the next question is, do you need the entire 990 or just the first two sheets?
The first two sheets is sufficient.
Okay, great. And that's helpful to know, because some of your 990s probably wouldn't upload in their entirety because of the space, the size limit for those files. So any other questions on navigating the website application online?
Not a question as to that, Kathleen, but will this recording be available?
Yes. Yep. And what we're going to have to see, this is our first time doing a recorded information session like this. So we're going to, once we finish today, kind of take a look and see, we might just have like a section that we can send you that's just navigating. So you don't have to watch the entire 45 minutes or however long it is. So that we're really trying to make a tool that's available to help walk you through as you're doing it. So we're going to work on that. And if you would like it, just shoot me an email. And again, I'll have my information at the end of the presentation. let me know and we'll send it to you.
Okay, great, because I've got one of my primary volunteers that couldn't be on the meeting this morning.
Yeah, and I think that's great because you have the opportunity to ask us any questions, but obviously not everybody from your organization could be here. And this is we hope is going to be very helpful to walking through. We're available for questions, but sometimes people seeing it in this form makes it a little bit easier to understand. So, yep.
Yes.
Just let us know. So now we're going to head back into the application and we're going to drill into some of the questions that we've received about some of the specifics that we're looking for in sections of the application itself. So I'm going to pass the first page, which is mostly your contact information. And we're going to go to the organizational information section, so page 2. And on this page, we ask you for an executive summary. So what we're really looking for in this section, and some people have asked what's the difference between the executive summary and then we ask you for information about the program in the next pages. What the executive summary we're looking for is going to be a more top level the storytelling of what it is you're trying to do and what you'd like to accomplish. So we don't need all of the statistics and information that you're going to be including in future questions. We want to know the story of you know, how you came to find this project is needed or this program is needed, what you're planning to do, and kind of tell us the story of how you've gotten to this program or project. Again, 500 words or less is what we're asking for because we are going to ask you more specific things about this as we go further into the application. So any questions about that? Okay. So the organization, a brief summary of the organization's history, that's just your history you could share with us, and then your mission and goals. So we really want to make sure that your program or project is in alignment with your mission and your goals. So that's where we ask you that. So now we're going to move into the next page, which is the purpose of your grant. So the first question is, what is the goal of this program or project? So again, a little more specific than you gave us in that executive summary. And an example that we kind of have tossed around in the office is if Brittany wants to have a coat organization that gives coats to Monroe Public School students, the goal of this program or project would be for me to provide 50 Monroe High School students or Monroe Public School students with coats. Really specific what it is that you are trying to achieve and how you'll plan on doing that. The next section is describe in detail research, statistics, or evidence that shows this need or benefit exists. So this is where we really want to know you've done your homework and what is indicating that this program or project is needed. So for my example with the coats, I could say that I have worked with guidance counselors from around the Monroe Public School area, and they have given me a statistic of free and reduced lunches, and I would reference those statistics here, which indicates this amount of students need coats, and this is your opportunity to really show us all of the details that help advocate for the fact that you've, again, done your homework, you've done your research, and you know there is a need for your program or project. And then the key staff responsible for implementing the program or project and their titles. So again, it's really important to know who is implementing this project and their titles, so we can determine, you know, okay, great, it looks like your program, you know, and the people attached to it they make sense together. It seems like you've gotten, you know, all of the ducks in a row for success with this program or project. And this is going to be your opportunity to show us that. And then finally, any in-kind and match donations or community partners that you're collaborating with. So let us know who's helping you with this project. It might not just be your organization. Let us know everyone that's involved and let us know how they are involved. So let us know, if I'm Brittany's Coat Project is partnering with the thrift store, I can say, the thrift store is helping me to find 15 coats, and then the rest I'm asking you for the funds for. Something specific like that. So any questions on the purpose of the grant section? Key staff, do you want us to simply list names and titles, or are you asking for names and titles are sufficient. We don't necessarily need all of the details of their background. We trust that if you're listing their certifications, that they are correct. Any other? Okay, so we're going to move on to the next section. So this is outcomes and results. So the first thing we're going to ask you in this section is to provide specific outcomes for this program or project in the time frame within which they will occur. So we want to know the tangible, trackable things that you are using to determine if this program or project is successful, and in what time frame are you giving yourself. So when we give you the grant, you do have 1 year to use those funds. Typically that's something that you would have in consideration with your time frame. But in this example of Brittany's Coats for the Kids, I would say that my specific outcome is that I will give 50 students coats, and my time frame is to have them to the students by December 1st, or something very, very clear indicators that let us know how you're planning on tracking the success of this program or project. And then we're asking how outcomes will be measured and who will measure them. So in my instance, I might say my outcomes will be measured in that all 50 coats have been assigned to a student, and this will be measured by the guidance counselors from Monroe Public School XYZ, listing them there. And in your situation, how you will measure the success and who will measure that, the specifics to your program. And then finally, the sustainability plans for the program or project. So here's where we want to know, if you were to start this program or project and we were to grant you for year 1, and let's say it's something that continues beyond just 50 coats in 1 year, what are your plans for sustainability if we were not able to continue that granting? So here's where we want to know, you've thought ahead into how you will continue this to support this need in the community. So again, with my coat example, I could say the sustainability for my coat project is that I will reach out to the Burlington Coat Factory, and that we have in the works promised 50 coats for 2024s and continue on. We were just examples of the forethought into your next steps and keeping this going. Now, again, you might have something, a program or a project that is a kind of like a one and done. And in that case, you could indicate here, there isn't a need for sustainability. And that's your spot to just kind of, mention that. So any questions for outcomes and results? And I don't know, I can't get the chat function here.
Yeah, Kathleen is Wayne Blank from Bedford Vet Center again. Can you put more than one project on a grant, or do you have to write separate grants for separate projects?
Yeah, so your grant application should be very specific. So if there are multiple projects that you're wanting to do, that would be separate applications.
Okay.
Typically, we try to fund, one project and then Kathy and Michelle definitely jump in here too, but if you're an organization that has multiple projects, you can request throughout the year, you can do multiple applications. But they do need to be very different. And oftentimes if you're one organization, we will consider that we have funded something for you already once within the year. So things to consider.
Yeah, you're right, Brittany. Yes.
So schools are a little bit different, and sometimes municipalities are a little bit different because there's different departments within those entities. But if you're an organization, that's what we're looking for. Yep, and if you have multiple projects, it would be a great idea to call us and chat, and we can help kind of guide you with, which ones make more sense or how to do that. So
We have a lot of visions.
which is great. But we can maybe help you focus for this application.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay, so nothing in the chat. So we're gonna move on to the next page, which is the program or project budget details. So we've tried to ask some prompting questions to make you think about what all the costs of your program actually are. So the first section, we're asking for your staff payroll, health insurance, taxes, licenses and certifications, supplies, marketing, equipment, repairs, and maintenance. So you may not have something under those categories as a part of your program or project, but we want you to think about all of the costs related to what you're asking for, because if these things could be a part of that. And then in the last section here, we are asking for other program or budget expenses. So if it doesn't hit one of those categories, we would like you to kind of list that all out here. So all of the dollar figures listed on this page should be adding up to the total that you asked us for on page 1. So let me see. I see Mark had a question. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I think you just answered my question. I was just clarifying that these, the amounts in the budget, you're looking at the percentage of salary for this project specifically, and
Yes.
then the expenses specifically from this,
Yes.
from the 12 months. Okay.
Yeah, so you're on the next page where we ask you for your financials. That is your whole operation, the finances there. But we really are concerned with the cost of your program or project. So yeah, it may be that you take, say you have a salaried employee, but they're going to dedicate like 10 hours to this specific project. We'd like you to try to find a figure there, and we would like that to be in your total. So sometimes we'll have people apply for projects, but they don't take into account their time. They're just asking for material things, which is fine. But, this is an opportunity for you to tell us all of the things that you would need to spend money on to make this program or project successful. So we can kind of indicate, we make sure your math is adding up, and we can kind of help figure out the answers any of the questions that they may have that you've thought about, the marketing or equipment maintenance, those kinds of things. Let's see, and then we have, are you looking for the budget specifically based on grant funds we are requesting, or do you want the totality of the budget? So we're really asking for what you're requesting from us, so that we can kind of learn how you got to that number and what those needs are. Yeah. Can you give an example of operational costs that you do not fund? Kathy, I might have you jump in if you have some specific, like an example of operational costs that we would not fund. Staffing is one, like if you had to bring, let's say you wanted to have a therapist come in as a part of your program, we would not pay a salary.
Well, it has to be related to the program. So I guess operational costs that we do not fund. I'm not sure. I can't think of an example, because there are some overhead costs that we would fund if there is some need, if we can establish that need. I can't think of anything else. Are you guys thinking of anything else? Michelle, do you have anything other than?
May I ask some specific questions?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So in the budget, so we know that there's staffing that's allowable, but that would be direct program expenses, correct? You're
Right.
saying you don't want to cover like the indirect costs, like the cost for your accounting or the cost of the audit, the agency audit, or things like that. So I just wanted to clarify, when you say operational, you don't mean to operate the program, you mean indirect costs. Is that correct?
no, what is it? Is the cost associated with the program? Do you need that cost to operate the program? So if you need a office space, probably a percentage of that overhead cost can be related to this program. So I think that's what you're asking, but
Yes,
if you need-
I
Okay, go
just
ahead.
saw on the funding priority section, the things that you all do not fund, that we went over right at the beginning. It talked about operational costs. There's some operational costs that are not funded. And so I just wanted to make sure that, if we were to submit a funding proposal, that we're not including something that's not going to be funded.
Well,
That's
I
why-
guess I'd have to know the specifics of that. If you could, when you get to that point, give us the specifics, because I'm really not sure. I'm not thinking that I hate to give you the wrong answer. So I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. So when you get to that point, would you please give us a call?
Sure, thank you.
Sure.
So the policy states grants for operational phases of established programs. Does that help
Yeah.
clarify it?
And this is, if this is,
If your program already exists and is running, then we
Okay.
would not, the grant would not pay for existing programs.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Yes. I think we answered your question, but if you have any specifics, please just give us a call when you get to that point.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Great. Okay, so, and I don't see any others in the chat. So, then the last section we did kind of go over, when we were walking through the application itself, but we do want to know, again, grants, that you've applied to that are committed or are pending, in-kind donations that are committed or pending, matching funds committed or pending, and other. So this is, again, where it's just really helpful to know what other partners you have on this program or project, and what they're, where they are in that process. Because again, we understand sometimes they're not always committed, but you are in the works. It's helpful to know that. Let's see. So any other questions on the budget page? Okay. So that is really kind of the deep dive that we wanted to do in terms of the questions. The final pages are the uploading of the documents, your finance and whatnot. So now is a great time. If there's any additional questions that you might have about our process, please go ahead and let us know. You can ask out loud or in the chat section here.
I had a question. My name is Nancy from Minerva. Could you hear me?
Yes. Hello,
Yes,
Nancy.
okay. Hello. So I had a question. We are currently working on translation and transportation services for the community, and we're looking to expand a little bit more. Would that be two different grants? Would you consider that two different grants?
Because so you're saying you have like a project that is transportation?
Yes, and then another that's translation.
Yes. So those would be two
Okay.
separate projects. And again,
One question, Brittany, and Nancy, I guess if the translation is for the project that you're transporting people for,
Yes.
are those, do you understand?
oh,
Do you understand where I'm going, Brittany, with this?
yeah. So you're saying translation for like people using maybe public transit?
No, so we transport community members who may not necessarily have reliable transportation. And typically when we're transporting is because we're going to translate, where the majority of our translation happens in educational and healthcare settings. So once we arrive at the pediatrician office, we translate.
Gotcha.
So you need that person to go with the person.
Correct.
Okay.
I think that those two are together in my mind. Brittany, Michelle, are you agreeing?
Yes.
Because
yes.
you can't send someone without a translator.
Correct.
I heard about your program. This is the, isn't this for the Spanish speaking people?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So that's the way I understand it. If I'm misunderstanding your program, please let me know, but I think you need to have both of them together to make the program.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's one grant, but you're doing two, you're transporting somebody, but the cost of the person being there is what the additional cost would be.
Correct.
Yes.
So they would be like a translator, but to provide that service, one of the other costs would be the transportation.
Correct.
So that would be like an example on that budget page. That would be an example of like in that other section. We'd like to know like what is the dollar amount for transportation. So that would include, let's say maybe insurance or gas, or some sort of allotment that you have like, per month, it would cost, this dollar amount for that. That budget section, that at the very bottom, that's where you have kind of like a big space to kind of fill in some of the things that are really maybe more specific to your project, but will help us to learn the total that it is that you're needing.
Thank you so much. Thank
you. And then you can, again, anybody with questions or specifics that would like to go over their projects with us, give us a call. We can set up a meeting, or we can answer your questions for you. We can try to help you through that process too. So, any other questions? And it could be about application. It could be about presentations, anything.
Yeah, Kathleen Wayne Blank from Bedford Vet Center again. We've heard about the grant application. What about the final report for this? What does that entail? Is there a final follow-up report after a year?
Yes, so you do get a grant report form. So let's say your application is successful, we would send you an email that tells you that it is successful, and we would attach a document that has the details of how long the funds are available and how to access those. And then we do send you a grant report form that we request that you submit a year after your project. And that is, I actually have one here. I can. That's just going to basically be asking the dates that your program or project ran through and the total amount that you use. Now, some instances, maybe you didn't use it all. We'd want to know that because we'd ask that you would return the difference. We ask for a summary of the original goals and objectives for your grant and if they were achieved. So a yes or a no there. And then we ask you to explain your evaluation process. So how did you come to the conclusion that your goals and objectives were achieved? How many families, individuals were served through your program? And then any actual expenses or details, more detailed financial information. And we also ask for, like, if you have like pictures or videos or anything that can help us tell the story of what it is you've done, because we do like to update the community through our newsletter and on our social media and on our website, the programs and projects and everything that you have going on. We like to give them updates as well. So that we give you a form that kind of gives you all that information at the same time that we send you your check.
Okay. Well, if you're lucky enough to get the grant, I just was trying to think ahead.
Yeah, it's helpful to know. And again, so we give that to you, but if you had any questions when you are completing it, you can always reach out to us. We take the information that you give us and again, try to tell the story of what it is you accomplished. And that's kind of a, it's a good thing to get the word out.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay, any other questions? So, oh wait, I see somebody in the chat. Hold on, let's see. The link to the presentation. Well, you're just thinking ahead. So I have my email address here on the screen. That is bnovak@cfmonroe. CFMonroe. I think I would type .org. Okay, I couldn't see the whole. So you can reach out to me, or we also have info@cfmonroe.org to request a copy of this presentation. It may take us a few days to get something to you because we want to take a look at it and see if it makes sense for us to kind of chop it up depending on where the questions are, or we may send you the entire document. This is our first time recording it and hopefully using it as a tool to help people through this process in the future. So we kind of have to see what that looks like. But again, I will leave my contact information here. And you can find us on Facebook or cfmonroe.org as well. All of our contact information is there. Any other questions? Okay, so again, we appreciate your time. It's really helpful to hear the sort of questions that you have when you're looking at this application for the first time. It always helps us to try to keep things as user-friendly as possible. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to us and we will be here to answer them. We will adjourn for today, but I will stay on the line. If anybody has any additional questions, go ahead and let us know. And have a good holiday, everybody. Oh, wait, do we get a couple more? Let's see here. Great. Thank you for coming.
Yes,
Great.
and Merry Christmas to you.
Yes, thank you.